And yesterday was a really bad day for him, and this is what he did.
And so we are in a state of emergency.
Okay, white supremacist violence is and always has been the number one threat to our society.
But I'm also very proud that my wife is white.
The Breakfast Club, bitches.
All right, Charlamagne, please tell me, why was I your donkey of the day?
The way things are going, they're going to sign an executive order to make me change that intro soon. But Donkey of the Day for Tuesday, February 18th goes to the U.S. Department of Education. Or should I say Donald Trump's U.S. Department of Education. Now, if you haven't been paying attention to what's going on in the world because it hasn't popped up on Shade Room just yet, let me be the first to tell you that Donald Trump and the Department of Education have decided to eliminate all race-based programs in schools. Okay, and they got 14 days to get rid of it. That's right. The Department of Education plans to cut funding for initiatives that address racial disparities in education. They will penalize schools that consider race in scholarships, hiring, and a bunch of other activities. Okay, they warn schools that they risk losing federal funding if they continue to take race into account when making scholarship or hiring decisions are so much as nodded to race in all other aspects of student, academic, and campus life. Oh, I can't make this kind of stuff up. Let's go to the national desk for the report, please.
DOJ's newest target, diversity, equity, and inclusion at the Department of Education, identifying 70 DEI training grants amounting to $373 million. According to DOJ, one such grant trained teachers to engage in self-reflection to confront their own biases and racism. This comes as the Department of Education continues its crackdown on DEI programs and policies in schools. On Friday, the acting assistant secretary sent out a letter reminding institutions any discrimination based on race, color, or national origin is illegal, adding institutions failing to comply with federal civil rights law face potential loss of federal funding. Critics quick to respond.
What does this mean? Are they going to take away funding from historically black colleges? Are they going to take away funding from public schools that have a Latino student union? To me, it indicates just the fanatical obsession that this administration has in terms of going against DEI.
This is America, 2025. You know, America's core values allegedly have always been liberty, equality, and justice. These values are supposed to be the foundation of American democracy, but they aren't. Okay, never have been. It's liberty, equality, and justice for white men, and then there's the rest of us. All right. In fact, the only reason things like affirmative action exist is because government needed a remedy for the effects of long-standing discrimination in this country. Now, somebody needs to explain to me what's changed. Okay, in a country where systemic racism is literally rooted in every institution, the solution is now to pretend that racism and other forms of discrimination just simply don't exist. Let's go back to doing things the way they were being done before these race-based programs existed. So let's go back to doing what caused us to have to come up with the race-based programs to begin with. This is all part of a broader agenda to remove what they call wokeness from American education. And look, I don't care for wokeness either, okay? I believe most woke people just simply need some sleep. But the reality is, wokeness and programs designed to level the playing field for marginalized students are not the same, okay? You can't just strip away those programs. That's like having a leaky roof and you decide to fix that leaky roof by removing the roof entirely. That would make no sense. Now, this is also the latest step in the Trump administration's move to reshape programs intended to make things equal for historically underserved populations as a form of racial discrimination. Craig Traynor, who's the Education Department's acting assistant secretary for civil rights, said related programs and scholarships, many of which have historically helped Black and Latino students attain college degrees or find community, had come at the expense of white and Asian students, many of whom come from disadvantaged backgrounds. Now, let me read to you a quote from Craig Traynor because this is interesting. He said, and I quote, "At its core, the test is simple. If an educational institution treats a person of one race differently than it treats another person because of that person's race, the educational institution violates the law." Well, goddamn. How many institutions have treated white people differently and given them preferential treatment over every other? Okay. Traynor says, put simply, educational institutions may neither separate or segregate students based on race, nor distribute benefits or burdens based on race. I could be wrong, because I am not the highest grade of weed in the dispensary. But we got to these race-based programs. We implemented things like affirmative action to make sure that policies and programs gave limited preferences to minorities and women not just in institutions of higher education, but job hiring, awarding of government contracts, other social benefits. They had to implement these things because if they didn't, white privilege would rule everything around me. Education is supposed to be the great equalizer, but how can it be when the very programs aimed at uplifting the underserved are being dismantled? Donald Trump and the Department of Education are sending a very clear message, and that message is F you niggas. All right? They aren't interested in addressing the real issues of inequality in our schools. Instead, they would rather gaslight us, tell us we tripping, sweep the inequality under the rug, and then tell us to act like we don't see the lump. So all these colleges that offer scholarships and grants specifically for students of certain ethnic backgrounds, all that's just gone. Schools are just barred from using race in decisions pertaining to admissions and hiring and promotion, compensation, financial aid, scholarships, prizes, administrative support, discipline, housing, graduation ceremonies, and all the other aspects of student, academic, and campus life. Who is going to be policing this? Okay? What about America in 2025 should make any of us believe we can trust people to do the right thing in regards to prejudice and discrimination? Because if you ask me, what the Department of Education is currently doing is indeed prejudice and discrimination. And you know the main reason we should teach the true history of America? So we don't repeat our mistakes. Winston Churchill once said, "Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it." We have learned nothing, and so here we are. Please let Kathy Griffin give the Department of Education the biggest hee-haw.
Please give this giant jar of mayo the biggest hee-haw.
It's a cold world.
Yes, it is.
It's a cold world.
Crazy.
All right. Well, thank you for that donkey of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Donkey of the Day is sponsored by renowned personal injury attorney Michael the Bull Lamonsoff. Don't be a donkey when you need a fighter on your side. If you're ever injured, go to michaelthebull.com. That's michaelthebull.com. And when you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Wake that ass up
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.